And welcome, everyone. It is a wonderful day here. I'm going to start us off with a spiritual mind treatment. I do this in the first person and invite you to take it for yourselves if you so choose, also in the first person. There is one power, one infinite intelligence, one universal presence. It is everywhere, present all the time in all of its goodness, in all of its power, and all of its knowingness. So as I step into this time together today, I acknowledge that here and now together, we are here to recognize a greater truth, to recognize a greater value and goodness to each of us, to ourselves and for ourselves. And we are here to know that we are connected to something much larger. We're never alone. We are always supported. So as we come together, we do this in celebration, and we do this in joy. We do this in gratitude. And as we do, we say together, and so it is. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity to continue our series that we've been doing this month of getting back to the basics. I would like to say if this is your first time or your 400th time, you are welcome. And that I am always glad to see you. We're always glad to see each other. It's a great opportunity to really connect with people of like mind, or more or less like mind. I always find interesting when we say of religious scientists we are like-minded, because we have some general ideas that are alike, and then we have a whole lot of other things that we all see individually, and that's part of the beauty. What is alike is we honor each person's right and responsibility to be truthful to themselves, to say what's happening, and to live it openly and freely. So whoever you are, wherever you come from, whatever background, whatever your particular taste, whatever your religious background, whatever your sexuality, whatever your sexual identity, all of those things that people use to separate each other, what we say here is you're welcome, you're honored, you're respected, and we're really glad you're here. That's because such is the nature of life, that all it asks and all it wants is the opportunity to appear. You're that opportunity, and so am I, and so it is. So if you'd like to join me in our Declaration of Principle, this is a statement of what we believe. Stand and we'll read it together. I believe in one God, one absolute power and first cause to all things. I believe that this power is perfect love, and it creates out of a desire to express love. I believe all thought is creative, and how I choose to think creates my personal experience. I believe in the unity of all life and the immortality of the individual soul forever folding. I believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness of God to all. And so it is. Thank you. A practitioner is someone who's well-trained and well-studied in this teaching, who knows how to use affirmative prayer, spiritual mind treatment for themselves and others. And our next piece of the lesson this morning is brought by one of our practitioners and the vice president of the board, Lee Huffman. Thank you, Lee. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Bob. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
We have a lot of things coming up that are very interesting over the next 3 weeks, and we'll let Bob talk about those with the Super Bowl and various other things going on here. But most of you know my wife Kim and I because we've been around SLCA and CSL Midtown since before our friend and minister Paul actually retired the first time. And so we were attracted to this teaching through the teachings of Paul and David Barrett back when the center was at the High Museum, Wardford Arts Center. And it was very interesting coming. Our daughter was very interested. Some of you know Eliza. She's going to be 21 in a few months. And that's hard to believe. She's grown up since she was 11 in this teaching. And I think that would have been wonderful for me to understand this teaching when I was at that age. And even though she's not totally active here, because she always has something going on a Sunday, she is very much committed to this teaching. Some of you may not know our son, who runs like everything from any type of teaching like this. Matthew is a U.S. Marine, retired based on an injury that he got. He'll be 27 in July. And then some of you know that James was our other son. He has passed over, and he would be 29 this month, or in May of this year. I spent many years traveling the world and developing leaders in over 35 countries, and I really enjoyed that traveling. But Kim was left at home and with the kids, and so now, last week, Kim was in Palo Alto, California, running a workshop and working with some people out there. She came home on Thursday and left on Friday for India. She landed in Bangalore today, and she'll be there all week. And she was going to be home with me for a week, but of course the people in California asked her to come back to run a couple workshops out there next week. So in between India and Barcelona, she's going to be in California again. So I get a few days with her in the next month. And so if you're not seeing her around, that's where she's at. But the good part is we're going to have lots of miles to go on our 30th wedding anniversary coming up, even though she won't want to travel. But I know how she feels to be left at home alone. And there's not a whole lot to do. So me and the cat, the kids are already out. Kim and I were attracted to this, like I said, with Paul Gagne, Reverend Paul Gagne, and David Barrett. And we studied and became licensed practitioners under David Alt at SLCA. And shortly after that, we moved over here to become part of the center. And we have really, truly enjoyed it. And it's been great to bring Bob here to be part of our teaching and continued teaching. And I've listened to several tapes just so I get it in there from before with other teachings that have been here. I've really enjoyed this teaching. While we were practitioner interns, a lady came up to me and asked me for a spiritual mind treatment. For those of you that aren't familiar with this teaching, a spiritual mind treatment is an affirmative prayer, as what Bob went through, and I'll go through here in a moment. She was in her late 70s, and her husband of 45 years had just passed about 3 years before that. She had sold their home that they had built together and moved to a new home that backed up on the Beltline. She told me that she had lots of friends, but she desired a different level of companionship. She wanted someone who could be at her side every day. She wanted someone who could love her continually, someone who would take care of her, that would take care of her and she could take care of them, and be with as they grew old together. And I think we all have a need to have companionship in our life. So we treated very clearly and asked for a companion who would come into her life, love her unconditionally, be at her side, share time with her as they grew old together. 2 weeks later, she came to me after a Sunday service and said, "I think our prayers have been answered, but we have a problem." So we went into one of the quiet rooms that they have over at SLCA, or they had in the other building that they were in. And that's where practitioners sit down with the people they work with and can be in quiet and understand things. And she pulled out a digital camera and showed me a picture of her new companion. There he was with loving brown eyes, long flowing hair, and 4 legs. Yes, we received exactly what we had treated for, a companion who would be by her side, love her unconditionally, and spend lots of time as they grew old together. We had manifested a dog. A dog had come up in her backyard off of the Beltline and had become her friend. And we were there after we'd done some laughing together. We took her through a more specific treatment that had the word human in it, and visualized a man who could come alongside Martha, and her new dog Benji, as she named it. And we laughed again and went on our way. I had to look in the audience. Martha is not the real name. I don't use the real names when I do these treatments, but I talk about this. But she's not in the audience today. Next week, Martha came to the center and caught me before the service. She introduced me to Max, who was the man who had lost his dog on the Beltline. It turned out that Benji was actually Buddy, and Buddy was Max's dog. As I turned to walk into the service, Martha turned, and I could still see her face. She looked towards me and Kim and mouthed something like, "This stuff works." Stuff wasn't the exact word. As far as I know, Martha, Max, and Buddy are still together and living on the Beltline. Let's be definite with the infinite. Being definite with the infinite is very important, although I don't think there's any problem with having a dog or a cat around. But when we do our treatments together, the more definite we can be, the more the infinite will respond exactly to our desires. One of the greatest contributions that our founder, Ernest Holmes, brought to New Thought and Ancient Wisdom is, I got to get rid of these things. I've got bifocals in there going up and down. So one of the great contributions that our founder, Ernest Holmes, brought to New Thought and Ancient Wisdom is a contribution of spiritual mind treatment. Treatment is simply affirmative prayer. It is our way of being definite with the infinite as we express our desires and we want to co-create with the creator of all things. We typically say our treatments in the first person, as Bob mentioned, because our mind and your mind are part of the greater mind of the creator. So what we say for ourselves can be taken by anyone and can be manifest in their lives if that is their desire. So if you would, please join me now in a spiritual mind treatment. Take everything off your laps, unfold your arms and legs, let the chair support you as you relax, and breathe deeply to clear your minds. Now know this with me, if you will. I know that there is one God, one Creator, who is known by many names. Some call the Creator Source. Some call it God, Allah, Yahweh, the Christ consciousness. Today I choose to call it the Creator. When the Creator desired to create the universe around us, it used itself to produce all that there is. Out of itself, it produced the universe, this planet, the air that we breathe, these walls, and the chairs that we sit in. Out of its desire to co-create with others, the Creator produced individual expressions of itself. I know that I am an individual expression of the Creator, as are others who hear these words are individual creations, individual expressions of the Creator. Every individual was manifest here to co-create with the Creator. I know that I co-create every aspect of my life by being definite with the infinite, by being definite with the Creator. So today, I want to be definite with the Creator in the area of finances. I know that the Creator, all that the Creator has is mine. I know that the Creator has an unimaginable amount of wealth, and that wealth is mine. Wealth is coming to me and to others in this center so that they may give to the center, so that the center may grow its programs and have an even larger impact on the community. I deny any hint of doubt or feelings of unbelief or thoughts that may keep this abundance of wealth from flowing through me to the spiritual living center of Atlanta here in Midtown. I know that the abundance of the Creator is mine to tap into, and that the finances of the center, that this center needs to have a more powerful and prosperous year in 2019 will flow through the individual expressions of the Creator who sit in these seats or who listen to these recordings. I know that these funds are used wisely and will help co-create programs that spread the clear understanding of this teaching across Atlanta and around the world. I know that this understanding will have a very positive impact on the people and the communities it reaches. I look forward to the abundance flowing through me and to me and through me to the center each month I look forward to the amazing impact that this center will have throughout 2019 and beyond. I know that my words are powerful, and as I speak them aloud, they define the world around me. So I speak these words into creation that is all around me, knowing that they will return to me with bountiful results. And together we say, so it is.
So it is.
Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad I'm here. We are in the fourth Sunday of our basics, back to the basics talks. And it's always kind of a joy and a sadness for me when this series comes to an end, because it's when we get to really come down and just cut through to the bottom line for this teaching. However, the good news is it's not the end of anything, because starting next week and going forward, we start applying all that we've been talking about the last 4 weeks. So if you missed some of that, you're still going to get it. You're going to get it through the rest of the year. And we start next week talking about how to apply it in various aspects of our lives. And so be sure and keep the momentum going of knowing that it is this teaching and its core that this center is really all about, that we're about, and that we're bringing forward. So what we've done up until now, we talked about this thing itself, Spirit, life, God, the way it shows up, as not as a personality somewhere, but as the very energy of life moving through all that is and creating everything out of itself without the things coming out of it, but still being fully immersed in that one power. We said, how does it work? Well, the way it works is by becoming each of us. So you're it. Whether you like that old game or not, you're it. To create your life, as he just sang about. And that one power moves through us by becoming us and by allowing us then and empowering us with all of its resources to design and model and style, if you like that better, the life of your dreams, the life you want. Then last week we talked about the way Reverend Angela talked about the way it works, and the way it works is by becoming that which we believe it to be. This one power, we believe it to be a power of goodness and light and love, constantly bringing growth and expansion, then that's what it becomes for us. If we believe it to be the mean old guy in the sky that's always, doling out punishments and blessings, then that's what it becomes to us, and life starts to look the way we believe it to be. Because what it does is it becomes to us what we expect of it. Doesn't mean it's becoming that to anyone else, it just means for us individually. And this week we're down to how to use it. How do we use this power for our benefit, for the benefit of the world? How do we really tap into all of this information in a way that can bring greater goodness, a greater expression? And the answer to that is really simple. Change your thinking, change your life. I mean, we love these slogans in this teaching because they help us remember the important things. We get so bombarded in our culture with things that are from a different view of the world and a different view of spirit and a different view of culture and life, that it's nice to have some things to hang on to. If I really want to change my situation in my life, then what I really get to do and have the power to do and the resources to do is change how I'm thinking about it and what I'm believing about it. See, and it's not just changing your thinking as if your thinking is a separate part of you over here. Some of us are more left brain and some are more right brain. Some are more into intellect and some are more into feelings. And the thinking we're talking about, and that Dr. Holmes talks about when he talks about thought, is that thought that includes our feelings and emotions. It's just a kind of which doorway you're going to go through first. Some days I wish I were more of a thinker and less of a feeler, because sometimes I get overwhelmed by the feelings and I'm trying to figure out what in the world's going on here with all these feelings. And then when I spend a little time, this infinite creator reveals to me what I'm thinking that's bringing the feelings, or what the feelings are telling me about what's going on. There are others who start with thinking and they think it through. When they get really clear about what they're thinking, then the feelings show up. And the grass always looks greener on the other side, or sometimes, maybe not for you. So there's both sides to that. So what we're talking about is changing your thinking, feeling, knowing self, ideas, in order to change your life. And if you're not sure what your thinking is, what your beliefs are, this is the real tricky part sometimes, is your life will show it to you. I used to say when I worked as a psychotherapist and was teaching other therapists that if you've got something in your life that's really there, but you're trying to ignore it and make it go away, you don't want to see it, it'll walk in the door and sit down and say hello. And then you get to deal with it in someone else. So much easier just to go ahead and take care of it here. But sometimes we just can't see those things. So if you wonder how you're doing in the areas of life, health, wealth, love, and work, look at how you're doing out there. And it will tell you what's going on in here with your beliefs. Maybe there's some ways you're not seeing life through the oneness and the fullness of what's possible, but through the lack and limitations that have been bombarded on us all the time. Life is hard. I'll pick on my mother all the time. I truly love her. Loved her, let's still do. But one of her statements she said at least 100 times a day was, it's a wicked old world. No matter what went on, she saw something in the news, it's a wicked old world. One of my other heroes, Raymond Charles Barker, used to read the newspaper and read all the horrors going on, and when he got through, he'd put it down, slam his hand on it, and say there's not a word of truth in it. Because what is appearing to be isn't at all reflecting what is the real truth of life. And especially not with what sells newspapers or gets you to watch the news on TV or those kinds of things. It tells you facts and it tells you appearances, but it doesn't tell you the real deeper truth behind it because of folks telling those stories often can't see it and don't know it. So how do you change your thinking? How do you change your beliefs? Really simple, really basic, and take some effort and some work. You change it by learning all you can about what truth really is and how the world and life really works. We often say we have several spiritual practices in this teaching, and I'll get to those later, but rarely do we say that one of our biggest spiritual practices in science of mind and in new thought in particular is learning, study, looking at what's been thought and how people think and why they think to come to a greater understanding of ourselves. So we do it. We teach classes. We have, we have the discussion group on Saturday mornings. We have all these other ways that we do that, but we don't often name it as a spiritual practice, but it truly is. Change your thinking. One of the ways to do that is through study and through looking at what the greats have said and what the great philosophers have said. One of the challenges we have is that about 1800 years ago, this philosophy went underground. This is not a new teaching. It showed up in the Greeks in their teaching, which was based on positivism and based on these very ideas. If you go back and read some of those early writings, you'll find Holmes all in it. I don't know how they knew him, but they seem to have. Somehow. And then it all went underground for a long time. And it's just been re-emerging in the last 150 to 200 years where we're seeing that there aren't two powers that are controlling the world, there's only one. Where we're seeing that what we do and how we think really does change the behaviors around us and affect what happens in our environment as well as in our own selves. So we need to learn. That's the first thing we have to do to change our thinking. And then the second thing is we have to come to really believe in your own power and authority. One of my favorite things in this teaching when I first got into it was when I heard the real authority for the truth for you is you. Now, I had been in a world until then, a religious world, that said the real authority for the truth of anything was the Bible, or what the preacher said, or some external authority, or history. History is a very big thing that we use to look to for authority. But in this teaching, what we know is, as an individual expression of that infinite, as Spirit being something through you, being you through you, you are the ultimate authority for your truth. That's a big piece of learning how to use this powerful teaching. Because as you stand in the truth of your own authority, recognizing that what I believe is the truth for me and for other people, you have greater power then to name your good and see it come forward and come forth. And then the last thing is the famous old statement, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. In order to change our thinking and change our lives and start to bring about more of what we want in our lives, practice is what we do. This is a teaching that Dr. Holmes and others have said, the trap in it is that it would be easy for us to get lost just in enjoying the philosophy. I mean, I love to read this stuff. I can spend a lot of time just reading and thinking about it. But if I'm not putting it into practice, it's kind of just a great, fun, joyful thing to do, but it's not getting me anywhere. So practice then becomes that third really important element in changing your mind about what you're doing, because it's through practice that we prove the teaching, that we prove that it works. That's why we used to call this religious science. We still do. We moved away from that language because it got confusing for folks. But the truth is, we are a religious science. The yogis called what they did for thousands of years and still do science, yogic science. Not just yogic, nice philosophy to think about, but a real science that you can work with and prove in your own experience. So we practice in order to prove the truth of our new ideas while we're changing our mind toward them. We could run around all day and say, well, everybody's prosperous, and health is for everybody, and we all have health, and we all have perfect, loving, awesome relationships, and no one ever is mean to us, or we've never been mean to anyone else. We can just chatterbox that all we want to, but until we are doing the things to put it into practice, it's just chatter, clanging gong and a tinkling cymbal, the Bible says. It's just noise. The truth is we have to go deeper. We have to go into that practice of the things we say we believe and that we read about in order to bring about this change we're talking about. I want to talk about what some of those are. First of all, we talked about this study and understanding. That is our first practice, study and understanding truth for us. Dr. Holmes says we should be able to look at any discordant fact in the face and know better. Recognize that these things that aren't working are coming from, I think he uses the phrase from Shakespeare, noise and old, and I lost it. No, noise and old words, old ideas. He also talks about we need to, part of that practice of study and understanding is so that we get over our hangovers. Anybody got a hangover this morning? The hangover he's talking about is the hangover of our old beliefs from other systems and other ways of looking at it. As a bona fide Baptist preacher, with years of study about sin, I knew, I could count sins. I knew all about sins in that part of my life. I could tell you right down to the most minute detail what the sin was and what was wrong with you because you had it. It was mostly about what was wrong with me. See, I had to unlearn all that nonsense. I had to get over that hangover, and it took a lot of orange juice and other things in the mornings to shift it. It took a lot of study. And then a lot of proving to myself that those things just weren't true. So whatever belief system you bring into this teaching, whether we honor the truth of it, but if it's hanging on a lot of dualistic thinking, that this is right and that is wrong and you are bad or you are good and they are bad or they are bad and you're good or you're bad and they're good or any of that either or stuff, then we have some hangovers to get over. We have some new truth to learn. And that takes some study. That takes looking at it and being reminded of it. It takes moving forward. The next thing is we have to start using this teaching from a standpoint not just of pain, although sometimes our pain pushes us until our vision catches us, as they say. But the idea is, what is the real vision that you're working from, that you're wanting to use this teaching to create a greater life out of? And it can be a big vision, it can be a little vision. There is no big or little when it comes to visions. It's your vision. Somebody will say, well, I just want a little better life, a little more money, a little more comfortable, a little more of this or a little more of that. Well, if that's your vision, that's what you'll get, is a little more life, a little more money, a little more comfort, a little less difficulty in relationships. What I'm suggesting is, in using this teaching, we get to use it. I mean, really use it towards a greater vision of ourselves. We say in this teaching, Dr. Holmes says it, and we see it, we feel it in all of our cultures in various ways, is that belief that we are born to be free. Freedom is our birthright. Freedom is our nature. And if that is your vision, then using this power, this teaching, is to bring you to a greater expression of that freedom. Free to be as prosperous as you want to be. Are we really that free? I think we are. Free to be as healthy as we can conceive. Free to be as loving and find the world a beautiful place. As free as we want to be. Wow. Free to do the work you love to do rather than the work you have to do to get paid. I decided many, many years ago I wanted to live as if I'm on vacation. And that means doing what I love to do on a regular basis every day, kind of on my own schedule, and without a sense of drudgery to it at all. That's when I became a minister. Yeah. I get to read books and study stuff and tell you about it. I get up here and talk. I get to learn. I get to work with you in the excitement of your growth. And I get to do it on a schedule that I get to create most of the time. Now, at the time I decided I wanted to live on vacation, this isn't what I had in mind. But it's turned out to be absolutely perfect for me. Because my idea of a vacation is reading books, talking to people, sometimes doing things that require a little effort and energy, but mostly sitting on the beach. So here we are, sitting on the beach. So see, you get clear about that vision of who you are and how you want to live, and then these things start to fall into place. You start using these tools to affirm the truth of you deserve that because you can imagine it. And because you can imagine it, it must be spirit. And because you're an expression of God, that must be God talking through you, wanting to create something. Oh, it was such a relief when I got in here and found out my desires were God nudging me to be something different, not the evil that I should avoid at all costs. You know, we get told so often there's something wrong with our desires. If you really want it, it must be wrong. If you think it'd be really fun, it must be wrong. In this teaching where there is oneness, where we know who we are as expressions of the divine, those desires that bubble up within you, even the ones you might not dare tell other people, chances are those are spirits saying to you, there's something special for you here to do that is only for you and that you get to do and bring forth. It takes courage, it takes faith, it takes willingness. Find that vision and purpose that is yours. And you don't have to look far. Don't go ask your family. Don't go ask anybody else what your vision should be. Now, yeah, you could do some asking in terms of getting some reflections on how people see you. But you're the one who knows what your purpose and vision is better than anyone else. In fact, you're the only one that really knows it. So know it. Figure out what inspires you the most and go after that. And then our other practice that Lee so beautifully spoke about is spiritual mind treatment. It's a very specific kind of affirmative prayer that starts with the idea that God is all there is and I'm in it. And because I am speaking my voice, I am speaking the word of God when I say, this is my truth. I am prosperous. I am healthy. I am. Whatever you use to fill in the blank there. Thank God it's the truth, and so it is. Which just means amen in English. Yeah. We teach treatment. We affirm and deny as part of treatment. An important part of treatment, and from the very beginning of the textbook where Dr. Holmes first introduces it, says you get real clear about the truth, and then when those other words and thoughts and ideas start bubbling up, you deny them. You say, that's not the truth. Deny the idea that I'm small. Deny the idea that the only thing I have is what you see physically in my life or in your life. That the only power we have is somehow outside of us and we have to go get it. That love is a commodity that we have to go get somewhere. All of that denial stuff that comes, negative things that pop up right behind the affirmation of truth that you make. This is my purpose and I know it's mine. Yeah, but I am prosperous. Yeah, but have you looked at your checkbook lately? No, I don't balance my checkbook, so I don't know what's in there. Or whatever you say. Not recommending that. That wasn't a recommendation. Because it does give you a reflection about where your consciousness is about prosperity and what you might be settling for. We settle for a lot of stuff. That's one of our, when you've been in this teaching for a while, people first get into it, we treat and we create all this newness and life goes well. And then we kind of start accepting those things that didn't show up right away as being okay. And if we're not careful, we come into these tolerances of all sorts of stuff. What I'm suggesting is with spiritual mind treatment, there's no reason to tolerate anything that doesn't serve and suit you. Because it's simply a message to you, to yourself, to say there's some more work to do here. There's something more for me to know. There's something more for me to practice. So we affirm and we deny. We affirm and we deny. Learn how to do spiritual mind treatment. I'm going to be doing another treatment workshop coming up in March. And at that time, this is a great time to come in and figure out how. It's not so important that you learn the steps, although it's like playing a piano. You learn scales and then you learn to make music out of it. We learn steps, we learn procedure, we learn all of that with spiritual mind treatment, but it's so you understand it so you can make music. So you can use it to create your life the way you want it. Not so we just, okay, I can do 5 steps. We teach that 5 and 7 and 22 and 39 or whatever the numbers are to help us learn how to do it and to get solid about it. But it's a practice that's not reserved for practitioners. It's a practice that is for everyone who wants to change your life for the better, who wants to use this amazing power of your consciousness that's inside of you to bring it up and bring it out and live in a better way, according to your choices about it. Nothing wrong if you're happy with where you are. Don't let me upset you. But if you're not, if there's any area that's still, then this is how you use it. You learn to do spiritual mind treatment. You study and get to know and understand oneness in a way that you hadn't before, perhaps. Dr. Holmes says in the beginning of the textbook, the other thing is we have to also be willing to listen to the guidance that comes up from within us. There's a great old story about a guy who was walking along the edge of a cliff and falls off. You've probably heard it 1,000 times, but I'm telling it again. And as he's falling down the side, he grabs onto a branch, and he's hanging onto this root that's coming out of the side of the cliff, and it's popping, and it's about to break, and he starts yelling, "Help! Help! Help!" And all of a sudden, after a bit, a voice comes down and says, "You're fine. Let go." "Help! Is there anybody else up there? Who is this?" "This is God talking." "Oh, was there anybody else up there?" I totally blew that. Sorry, folks. You get it? And sometimes that inner guidance we get is not what we wanted to hear. Like, "Don't eat the second dessert today, Bob." I don't like hearing that one. But for us to grow and use this, we need to be willing to listen to and follow that inner guidance that comes up. Yeah. Because sometimes it is so absolute right on, it's amazing. Sometimes the notion is, don't do this right now. And you wonder why, and 10 minutes later you find out. Sometimes when you lose your glasses and can't get out the door, and then you leave 3 minutes later, you miss the wreck that happens right outside of your apartment, which happened to me last week. There was an inner guidance at work here. Trust what's going on inside and what bubbles up, because your unconscious mind is your easiest, tightest connection with the infinite. So those things that are popping up from inside that seem to be interfering often are not. It's often the opportunities for you to slow down or speed up or do something different. We need to learn to listen to ourselves and be willing to follow the wisdom. Now, yeah, we have to figure out which is wisdom and which is not. My urge for the second dessert usually isn't. But we follow that. So that means that one of the ways we increase our listening and our ability to hear that is meditation. We offer meditation as a practice here every Sunday morning. We offer it and encourage people to do that. Meditate and then do your spiritual mind treatment. Meditate and get centered and begin listening inside of yourself, and then speak your truth into the life that you want. And it bubbles up and shows up. And there's one more step, one more spiritual practice. Take action. It's like if you go to a buffet and you sit down and you wait for the food to come to you, it probably won't. You can sit there and dream about it and beg for it and want it all you want to. Smell it. I can gain weight by smelling it. Smell it. Do whatever, but you got to get up and go get it. So when you get that inner guidance that says go and do and be, or don't go and don't do, following it is the important part. Taking that action. It's the final step of any spiritual mind treatment, is taking the action that we feel internally called to do, that we feel internally led to do. Go this way, go that way. I was driving down a road in Tampa, outside of Tampa a few years ago, and this turnoff, every time I'd go by it, just kept pulling me. It was like this, there's something down that road, and I want to go see what it is. I finally decided to, and I turned the corner, went down the road. I had some extra time. And at the end of the road, I found this amazing, beautiful mound left over from ancient Indians, not unlike things you see down in Central America. Not marked, had a little fence around it, no big deal, but a huge deal to me. I mean, I just was like, wow. I was all caught up at that time in working with the shaman and working with those kinds of realities and energies and looking at how does that fit with what we teach, or does it and doesn't. And then to suddenly have this amazing place that no signs, no nothing. So I could go pull up and go up and sit and meditate on top of the mound all by myself anytime I wanted to, and be right there connected, feeling connected with all that history. Nobody ever told me it was down there. I just felt the urge. I felt the courage to then follow that urge and burn a little extra gas. That's a simple one, but there are so many that happen to us all the time. You have them. You know what I'm talking about. You just get this urge. And too often, when we're on our tight schedules or we're running around, we're not living on vacation, we end up ignoring those things because they don't fit. And we miss out on bringing to us the lives that we want. So take action. So here's really the bottom line about how you use it. You use this amazing power called God, called life, called spirit, that has all these qualities of love, of power, of honesty, of truth, of goodness, of love, of presence. The way we really use it is by becoming it. And that's what all the practices are about. It's helping us to become what we say we are, which is individual expressions of an infinite creator source. So we become even better versions of that by practicing using these principles, by practicing these spiritual practices we're talking about, and then by bringing it into just the full expression of our normal everyday lives. You are Spirit's opportunity to be something nobody else can be, ever has been, ever will be. And I'm not talking about just doing great things. Do great things. Not knocking that either, but it's the simple everyday stuff. To be the most loving person you can be, perhaps with the guy at the grocery store, or the woman checking you out, or the man checking you out, or wherever at the grocery store, or wherever you are. To be that loving presence, to be that kindness, to recognize as you speak your word for other people of healing, instead of a word of, get out of my way. That we get to be that power of spirit for people. That's what this is really about. That's how we use it. So there is a power for good in the universe, and you can use it, and these are the ways that you use it. There's a power for good in the universe greater than you are, and you can use it. But here's the other side. There's a power for good in the universe greater than you are, and if you cooperate, it will use you to create a greater good than you've ever yet imagined for yourself, and maybe that greater good you are imagining for yourself that just hasn't happened yet. Because you're not in this fight alone, you're not separate, you're not separated. You have the entire power of God, of the universe, of life, conspiring on your behalf to bring about your best. The universe always says yes to us. The law says yes to us. Spirit says yes to us. You say yes to you. And you'll get there. Because you're wonderful, and you deserve it, and so do I. And so it is. Thank you. Thank you. So I would like to invite you to join me in a short meditation and a spiritual mind treatment. The spiritual mind treatment is written by Dr. Ernest Holmes. I am a center in the divine mind, a point of God-conscious life, truth, and action. My affairs are divinely guided and guarded in right action, and into correct results. Everything I do, say, or think is stimulated by the truth. There is a power in this word that I speak, because it is of the truth, and it is the truth. There is perfect and continuous right action in my life and my affairs. My belief in wrong action is dispelled and made negative. Right action alone has power, and right action is power, and power is God, the living Spirit Almighty. This Spirit animates everything I do, say, or think. Ideas come to me daily, and these ideas are divine ideas. They direct me and sustain me without effort. I am consciously directed. I am compelled to do the right thing at the right time, to say the right word at the right time, to follow the right course of action at all times. All suggestions of age, poverty, limitation, or unhappiness is uprooted from my mind and cannot gain entrance to my thought. I am happy, well, and filled with perfect life. I live in the Spirit of truth and am conscious that the Spirit of truth lives in me. My word is a law unto its own manifestation, and will bring to me and cause me to be brought to its fulfillment. There is no unbelief, no doubt, no uncertainty. I know, and I know that I know. Let every thought of doubt vanish from my mind, I know that I am the truth, and the truth has made me free. I'm grateful for this truth. I'm grateful for this teaching. I'm grateful for this center and all that it is for me and for all of us. And in that gratitude, I release this now, letting it be the truth. And so it is. Thank you. And now we come to the opportunity for you to expand your prosperity by contributing to that which you care about. And first of all, I want to thank all of you who do that regularly already through our electronic systems and our other ways. Whether you're giving money or your time or your energy, it all multiplies and comes back to you, and we're grateful for it. Thank you for putting Midtown CSL on the map and keeping us here. It's a good thing. It's a wonderful thing.